ماذا يحدث حين يأتي المهاجر إلى بلد يظن أنه سيغادره يوما ثم يولد أبناؤه فيه فيصبح وطنهم؟ في 11 من صفر سنة 1416 هجرية، الموافق للتاسع من يوليو سنة 1995 ميلادية، وفي خضم مرحلة مفصلية كانت تعيشها الجالية المسلمة في هولندا وسائر أنحاء أوروبا، أنتجت هيئة البث الإسلامية الهولندية سلسلة بعنوان الإسلام والحداثة مستقبل الإسلام. آنذاك كانت أحلام العودة قد تبددت، وتحول ملايين المسلمين من عمال ضيوف إلى مواطنين دائمين، وفي وقت كانت فيه بعض الأحزاب السياسية ووسائل الإعلام تشكك في اندماجهم وولائهم لأوطانهم الجديدة، بدت أسئلة مصيرية: كيف يندمج المسلم في وطنه ويسهم في بنائه دون أن يفقد دينه وهويته؟ وكيف يحافظ أبناؤه على إسلامهم ومن يمثل المسلمين ويوحد مؤسساتهم؟ ولمناقشة هذه الأسئلة وغيرها، جمعت الهيئة حول مائدة مستديرة نخبة من الشخصيات المسلمة في حوار أداره الباحث الهولندي شهدتها كونيكسفيلد. وكان من بين ضيوفها البروفيسور الكتاني رحمه الله، أول عالم مغربي تخصص في الطاقة الشمسية والعلوم الذرية، ومن أبرز رواد علم الأقليات المسلمة. جاب العالم باحثا ومستشارا ومحاضرا، وأسهم في تنظيم شؤون المسلمين في بلاد المهجر وتأسيس مؤسساتهم وصياغة رؤاها والدفاع عن حقها في الجمع بين المواطنة الصادقة والحفاظ على هويتها الإسلامية. لكن المائدة المستديرة لم تكن نهاية الحوار، فبعدها جلس البروفيسور الكتاني إلى شباب من الجيل الثاني ولدوا في هولندا ويعدونها وطنهم، ليدور بينهم حوار صريح بين جيل وضع اللبنات الأولى وجيل يستعد لحمل الراية. ولم تكن تلك الزيارة الأخيرة، فقد ظل البروفيسور الكتاني يعود إلى هولندا حتى أواخر حياته، وتوجت جهوده بإبرام شراكة أكاديمية بين جامعة ابن رشد الإسلامية التي أسسها في قرطبة والجامعة الإسلامية في روتردام. ولم يكن ذلك النقاش بعيدا عن الواقع، فخلال 3 عقود تقريبا ارتفع عدد المسلمين في هولندا من نحو نصف مليون نسمة عام 1416 هجرية إلى نحو 1,500,000 عام 1447 هجرية، حتى باتوا يشكلون ما يقارب 8% من سكان البلاد، وفق ما أورده البروفيسور حسين الكتاني في كتابه تعداد المسلمين في العالم. أترككم الآن مع هذا الحوار الثري كما دار في ذلك اليوم.
Tarek en Esmee gaan in gesprek met Ali Katani, die moslimminderheden over de hele wereld onderzoekt. Tarek en Esmee zullen het met hem vooral hebben over machtsconflicten tussen de eerste en de tweede generatie.
Have you had experience during all your travels that in those countries where the Muslim minority only exists for about 2 or 3 generations, that there is still this difference of opinion between the first generation and later generation vis-à-vis their cultural background or the national background?
The children that are born here obviously look at this land as their country. The parents obviously they still thinking about paradise lost, their own country. They want someday to go back, and they find that day will never come. So eventually the parents try to give the entire identity they have to their own children. They are Moroccan, for instance, or they are Turkish, or they are including Muslims, and so on.
Yes, but
now it is not fair. It is not fair because if you're going it's not fair for the children.
Oh, for the children.
For the children,
yes,
because if you are born here and you're growing here and this is your country, etc., you have to make the best out of it. Islamically speaking, you are really an opportunity for Islam to be established here, or in a minority situation. So you have to organize yourself as a Muslim who are in here. Whatever are your background, it doesn't matter anymore because you're here, and establish a strong, in every sense of the word, Muslim community in Holland that is part of the Dutch community.
So is that going to mean that it's up to let's say the second generation or third generation to do this all by themselves without any support of the first generation because they're still in their home countries with their minds?
Here now you are thinking about black and white. You are generalizing.
Oh yes.
Not all the members of the first generation are thinking that they forget about it, we're going back home. A lot of members, as a matter of fact, it was the members of the first generation, the immigrants themselves, who started establishing Islamic association, building mosques, institutions from scratch, from zero. Now, the importance of the second generation is essential. Because if the second generation, that means those who are born here, or call it first, sometimes they call it first generation, born here, are lost to Islam, Islam is lost. Because these are the link between the immigrant and the forthcoming generations. If you jump one generation, how you cannot move the third and fourth and fifth generation. Therefore, the responsibility of the second generation is to build on what the first generation has done. There are two ways of solving a problem. Either through clashes or through negotiating and discussion.
Could you concrete that?
The second generation...
Could you give examples?
Yeah, I'll give example. You can see, criticize the first generation, say the hell with them, they're ignorant, they're no good, they're not, etc., and we're going to start from scratch. This is a horrible thing to function.
It is happening.
That's a terrible error. The best thing is to negotiate with the first generation, to try to convince and build up, either by convincing or, if it's impossible, separation, avoiding clashes. And this is possible. And this is the way, what can be, because I've seen it happening elsewhere, and successfully. Because time is with the second generation, the third, not with the first generation. Obviously, that's a fact of life. So you can use the time to negotiate an improvement on the first. And a negotiated result is always better than a result that is out of a conflict. Because even though it might not be the best result, still it's an improvement on the further.
Mr. Ketani, in theory, I agree with you completely. But what I wonder is in practice, we have a problem with negotiating, because in a lot of times in our relations as young people organized in youth organizations, in our negotiations with first-generation Islamic organizations, it seems like they have never written down the word negotiation in their vocabulary. And how can you negotiate with people who are not open to it?
I'll give an example, specific example. Assume a first generation established an Islamic association, all right? That Islamic association built a mosque, a Quranic school, and so forth and so on. They're running it the way they knew how to run it back home, etc. There are two ways where such an organization could be established. One way where, for instance, on the Shura principle, there are elections, there is an executive committee, and so forth and so on.
No,
theoretically.
Theoretically. There are cases like this, and there are cases where a big chief is there and everybody is a follower, and the one who does not follow is kicked out. See?
Yeah.
Obviously, in the first case, you can negotiate much easier than in the second case. In the second case now, if you cannot convince the grown-ups, in that, for instance, there is a youth group entering in, they come to the mosque, they're not allowed to talk because the grown-ups are there, you want to change things, you're not allowed to do it, and so forth and so on. It's impossible, you cannot function.
No.
In that case, it's better to establish another organization, youth organization, elsewhere, have another place, and so forth, apart from the first. There is no harm to that.
Right.
But it should not be established to fight the first one. It should be established to do the things you want to do.
Of course.
And nobody will stop you from doing it.
Of course.
This way, and you do it, don't do it in the same manner. Don't be a young big boss again that will be followed the others. Try to do it the proper way that you didn't like the other one.
Of course, but the problem is, Mr. Ketani, that at some stage you get somehow forced into being very critical of the first organization, the first generation organization, because as a youth organization you want to voice out to this Dutch community. You want to voice out to the Dutch government, and the Dutch government says we want to have one body that can represent Muslims. And because the young Muslims, they don't want to be represented by this, let's say, this particular group of first-generation Muslims, you have a problem. And then you can't say, like, well, we'll ignore the existence of the first-generation Muslim organization, but if they are going to represent us, we have to do something about that.
Well, in that case, you have to be more democratic than you sound. Because, if you want a Muslim community to be represented, it's the Muslim community, the way it is, that would be represented, not the way you think it should be. And progressively it will change. Then you have to build up, of course, some kind of representativeness that will represent the community as it is. Mm. Now, if the majority at this stage are the first generation, certainly in 50 years, the majority will not be first generation. There will be the second and the third generation majority. You will have to wait for your time. You cannot jump the ages. This community now, in Muslim community in Holland, is a new one. 20 years ago, maybe there were 1% of the Muslims that are now here. And therefore, it is a community in the making. You cannot have a baby born and then
So we
expect
have
him
to
to run and then the second month of his birth. He would need to grow 5 years, 10 years, 12 years before it can get strength. You have, what is important is not to reach an aim fortnight. What is important is to see where you want to reach and feel that you are progressing toward that end. And for this, there is no doubt that there should be some kind of coordination between all the Muslims that exist in the country, in which, of course, the second generation, third generation should be represented. But you cannot, declare that first generation is worth nothing. We have to do without them. This is the conflict situation that you are proposing, and this is not a constructive situation.
No, I agree with you, but it's not the position we're proposing.
Yeah.
It's the reality.
To the first generation, actually.
Yeah, and that's actually. I mean, this is the contradiction of this interview as well.
Yeah.
I mean, us being from the younger generation as a minority in the Netherlands, we're already having. Well, again, we're having a discussion with you, which we would have had. If there was a representative of the first generation Muslim organizations sitting at your chair.
No, I think you're having a hang up about first and second generation. Because first of all, I'm not first generation because I'm not an immigrant anyway. I am a student of all the generations because I'm a student in the sense I'm studying the case and I can identify with the process. And my aim as a Muslim, as an Islamist, if you want, put it Islamist, quote unquote. I don't like the term, but you can use it. Is to see Islam established everywhere in the world. This is my aim. I'm not nationalistic. I am not, therefore, my aim is not the aim of the first generation anyway, that is for sure. My aim is more sympathetic to the choice of the second and third generation. I want to see, if we look at the case of Holland, I want to see a Dutch Muslim community established, recognized with its institutions and so forth and so on, that can represent Islam in this land perfectly.
That's very nice because we share this aim with you.
That's the point. In other words, how to do it the best way, this is what I'm trying to help you reach the point. So you cannot, both of you, think of me as the first generation talking to the second and third.
No, we're just comparing you. We're just comparing you
Maybe
with them.
by age.
Also perhaps because of the shock in your eyes of our, let's say, our youthful aggression in these cases sometimes.
I'm used to my children.
They
are as outspoken as you.
Right.
I educate my children to be outspoken. I like that.
Okay, well then, I have 5 words for you.
Yes.
Could you respond in a few words?
Immediately.
Okay. Adam.
Our father.
European Muslims.
My brothers and sisters.
Interreligious love.
Perfect with me.
Sharia.
That's the law of God.
The Dutch Broadcasting Foundation.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Ketani. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.